Welcome back to the Yawning Yeti, where bedtime comes easy and the mountains are always sleepy. Grab your blanket, get comfy, and let's drift off together. You're about to embark on a peaceful journey through the dark and fascinating world of The Witcher. This is a collection of monster lore, creature tales, and the ancient knowledge that witchers have gathered over centuries. Over the next while, we'll explore the monsters that inhabit the continent, from the smallest drowners to the mightiest dragons. So close your eyes if you haven't already. Take a deep breath in and let it out slowly. Let's walk the path together. Welcome, traveler. Close your eyes and let yourself drift into the world of The Witcher, where monsters roam the dark places of the world, and every creature has a story to tell. Breathe deeply and relax as we explore the bestiary of the continent. Let's begin with the necrophages, creatures that feed on the dead. In times of war and plague, these monsters thrive, and the continent has known much of both. The most common necrophage you'll encounter is the drowner. Though common doesn't mean harmless. Drowners are born from the bodies of those who drown in lakes, rivers, and swamps. The transformation isn't immediate. The corpse must lie in water for some time, absorbing certain minerals and undergoing changes no scholar fully understands. What emerges is something that was once human, but is human no longer. Drowners are pale, bloated creatures with webbed hands and dead, fish-like eyes. They hunt in packs, dragging victims into the water where they have the advantage. But here's what many don't know. Drowners retain fragments of memory from their previous lives. They're drawn to places they knew when alive, lingering near villages they once called home. A drowner might attack a traveler viciously, yet ignore the old fisherman who used to be its friend. These fragments don't make them less dangerous. They're still monsters, but they add a layer of tragedy to their existence. Drowners have cousins, the drowned dead, who are stronger and more aggressive. These form when someone dies violently in water, usually murdered and thrown into a lake or river. The rage of their death fuels their transformation, making them faster and more cunning than regular drowners. They often lead packs of lesser drowners, seeking revenge on the living for the life stolen from them. Then there are water hags, grotesque creatures that lurk in swamps and bogs. These aren't transformed humans, but something older, something that might have always existed in the dark, wet places of the world. Water hags are cunning and patient. They'll wait beneath the surface for hours, perfectly still, until prey comes close enough. Then they burst from the water with surprising speed, using their long tongues to pull victims into their grasp. Water hags are territorial and jealous creatures. They hate beauty because they're so hideous themselves. Stories tell of water hags drowning young women out of pure spite, unable to bear seeing something lovely when they themselves are monstrous. But they're not mindless. Water hags can speak, though their voices are harsh and croaking. Some have been known to bargain with desperate people, offering aid in exchange for terrible prices. Move with me now to the forests, where ghouls make their homes. These necrophages are more intelligent than drowners, forming complex social structures in their underground lairs. Ghouls gather around battlefields and cemeteries, feasting on the dead. They're patient creatures. When food is scarce, they can enter a state of hibernation, waking only when they smell fresh corpses. A ghoul pack has a hierarchy. The oldest, strongest ghoul leads, and beneath it are layers of dominance established through violence. They communicate through grunts and gestures, coordinating their attacks with surprising sophistication. When a ghoul pack decides to hunt living prey, they're far more dangerous than people realize. They'll set ambushes, using some ghouls as bait while others circle around behind. But the most disturbing thing about ghouls, they were once human. Every ghoul was a person who ate human flesh while still alive. This transgression, this breaking of the ultimate taboo, transforms them over time into the monsters they become. It's a slow process, taking months or years, but inevitable. The person's humanity gradually erodes, their body twisting to match the monster their soul has become. This means every ghoul has a story. Perhaps they were a soldier during a siege, starving, who made the choice to survive at any cost. Perhaps they were lost in the wilderness and stumbled upon a corpse. Perhaps they were simply cruel and curious. Whatever the reason, they crossed a line that can never be uncrossed, and now they haunt graveyards and battlefields, forever hungry. There's a rare variant called the Al-Ghoul, larger, stronger, more aggressive than common ghouls. Al-Ghouls have spikes protruding from their backs that stand erect when they sense danger. These spikes are coated in a toxin that causes intense pain and fever. Al-Ghouls are pack leaders, the alphas that other ghouls follow. Killing an Al-Ghoul will scatter a pack, sending the lesser ghouls fleeing in terror. Graviers are another necrophage, appearing during times of plague. They're drawn to mass graves like moths to flame. Gravers are faster than ghouls, more feral, covered in grave dirt and infection. Their bites carry disease, and many who survive a graver attack die days later from fever. They hunt in small groups, shrieking and howling to frighten prey. Now drift with me to the swamps, where foglets wait. These creatures are born from the fog itself, or so it seems. When conditions are right, when mist hangs heavy over fetid water, when the air is thick and still, foglets manifest. They're not quite physical, not quite spirit, existing somewhere between the two states. Foglets are ambush predators. They merge with the fog, becoming invisible, then materialize behind their victim. Their claws are sharp, but it's their nature that makes them truly dangerous. Fighting something you can't see, something that could be anywhere in the mist, creates a terror that's almost worse than the physical threat. Foglets feed on that fear as much as they feed on flesh. Some scholars believe foglets are related to wraiths, spirits that haven't fully manifested. Others think they're a unique form of elemental creature, given life by the swamp's miasma. Either way, they're a reminder that the world holds mysteries even witches don't fully understand. Let's talk about wraiths now. Spirits bound to the mortal world by unfinished business. A wraith forms when someone dies with powerful emotions left unresolved. Revenge unsought, love undeclared, justice unserved. The spirit can't move on, trapped in an endless loop of its final moments. Noon wraiths appear during the day, born from women who died violently, usually murdered by rejected lovers or jealous rivals. They manifest at midday when the sun is highest, haunting the fields where they died. Noon wraiths are beautiful and terrible, appearing as lovely women in tattered wedding gowns or fine dresses. But their beauty is a lie. Beneath the illusion is something twisted by death and rage. A noon wraith's presence causes crops to wither and animals to sicken. She doesn't intend this harm. It simply radiates from her like heat from fire. Noon wraiths attack anyone who enters their territory, especially men, seeing in them the face of the one who killed them. They can't be killed in the traditional sense. Only by resolving their unfinished business can they finally find peace. Night wraiths are similar but appear after dark, born from women who died during wedding preparations. There's something particularly tragic about night wraiths. They died just before the happiest day of their lives, cut down on the threshold of joy. This makes their fury especially potent. Night wraiths wear spectral wedding veils and carry bouquets of dead flowers. They wail in the darkness, a sound that chills the blood of anyone who hears it. Then there are the plague maidens, wraiths born during times of epidemic. These spirits were healers in life, women who tended the sick during outbreaks of plague or cholera. They died from the very diseases they fought, and their spirits remained, confused, still trying to help the sick. But a plague maiden's help is death. She spreads disease wherever she goes, touching the healthy and infecting them. She doesn't understand she's harming people. In her mind, twisted by death, she's still a healer doing her duty. Penitents are wraiths with a different origin. These were religious zealots who died believing they hadn't suffered enough for their sins. They manifest near sites of religious significance, flagellating themselves endlessly, unable to accept forgiveness. Penitents are dangerous because their self-hatred has become hatred of all living things. They see the living as sinful and impure, and they attack to purify through pain. Drift now to abandoned places where harpies nest. These creatures are part woman, part bird, or predator. Harpies aren't transformed humans. They're their own species, intelligent in their way, but cruel by nature. They nest in ruins, cliffsides, and abandoned buildings, gathering in flocks called shrikes. Harpies hunt in groups, diving from above to rake victims with their talons. They can carry off children and small adults, taking them back to their nests. What happens there isn't pleasant. Harpies feed on living prey, keeping victims alive as long as possible. This isn't sadism. They simply prefer fresh meat and lack the ability to preserve food any other way. What makes harpies unsettling is their voices. They can mimic human speech, repeating phrases they've heard. A harpy might shriek, "Help me," in a perfect imitation of a child's voice, luring would-be rescuers into an ambush. They don't understand what they're saying. They're like parrots, repeating sounds that get results. But the effect is deeply disturbing. Erinyes are even worse. These are harpies that have grown larger and stronger through feeding on particularly potent prey. An Erinyes might be 20 years old or more, having survived countless hunts. They're smarter than common harpies, capable of complex tactics. An Erinyes will sometimes work alone, not wanting to share kills with the flock. These solitary hunters are especially dangerous because they've learned from experience. Now let's venture into caves where endrigas make their hives. These insectoid creatures are nightmares from the dark places underground. Endriga workers are the smallest, about the size of a large dog, with chitinous armor and mandibles strong enough to crack bone. They gather food for the hive, attacking anything that enters their territory. Endriga warriors are larger, equipped with more impressive armor and sharper weapons. These are the hive's defenders, stationed at entry points and patrolling the perimeter. They're aggressive and fearless, fighting to the death to protect the queen. And the queen, she's enormous, bloated with eggs, the mother of the entire hive. An Endrega queen rarely moves, stationed deep in the hive's heart. She's constantly laying eggs, producing dozens of Endregas every day. If you want to clear an Endrega infestation, you must kill the queen. Otherwise, the hive will simply rebuild. What many don't know is that Endregas aren't native to the continent. They came through during the conjunction of the spheres, that cataclysmic event when multiple realities merged briefly, allowing creatures from other worlds to enter this one. Endregas were just one of many species that crossed over, but they adapted remarkably well, spreading through cave systems across the land. Move with me to the mountains, where ice giants dwell. These creatures are ancient, possibly predating the conjunction, beings of living ice and stone. An ice giant stands 3 times the height of a man, covered in frost that never melts. They move slowly, deliberately, their footsteps causing the ground to tremble. Ice giants are territorial, but not inherently hostile. If you don't enter their domain, they'll ignore you. But if you trespass, they'll defend their territory with implacable determination. An ice giant's fist can shatter boulders. Their breath is a freezing wind that can turn a man's blood to ice in his veins. They're not evil. They're forces of nature, like avalanches or blizzards, and just as deadly. Some mountain villages worship ice giants as gods, leaving offerings at the boundaries of their territories. The giants ignore these offerings, but the practice continues because it reminds people not to venture too far into the mountains. In this way, the giants inadvertently protect foolish travelers from themselves. Deep in the forests, Leshens hold court. These are not mere monsters, but something more. Ancient spirits of the forest itself, given form and consciousness. A Leshen appears as a tall, thin figure made of wood and bone, with a deer skull for a head and antlers reaching toward the sky. They move through trees like ghosts, appearing and disappearing at will. A Leshen bonds with its forest, becoming one with it. The creature can see through every animal in its domain, control roots and branches, summon crows to attack intruders. The forest is its body, and harming the forest harms the Leshen. Conversely, harming the Leshen harms the forest. When a Leshen dies, the trees around it wither and decay. Some villages make pacts with Leshens, agreeing to respect the forest in exchange for the Leshen's protection. These arrangements can last generations. The Leshen guards the village from bandits and monsters, ensures good hunting, keeps the wolves at bay. In return, the villagers never cut certain sacred trees, leave offerings at the forest's edge, and sometimes, in the oldest, darkest packs, provide sacrifices. These sacrifices are usually animals, but some Leshens demand more. When a village has promised a human sacrifice to a Leshen, they're trapped. Break the pact, and the Leshen will destroy the village. Keep the pact, and they must send someone into the forest to die. It's a horrible choice, and it's why witches often find themselves hired to kill Leshens. Better to fight the monster than become monsters themselves. Ancient Leshens are even more powerful. These are Leshens that have lived for centuries, accumulating vast power. An ancient Leshen can control entire forests, summoning wolves and bears as allies, manipulating the terrain itself. They're among the most dangerous creatures a witcher can face. Now drift to villages at night where werewolves prowl. Lycanthropy is a curse, not a natural condition. It's spread through bites or sometimes through magical curses. The first transformation is always the worst. the bones breaking and reforming, the skin splitting as fur erupts, the mind shattering as humanity is forced aside. There are two types of werewolves, voluntary and involuntary. Voluntary werewolves have learned to control their transformations, changing at will. These are the most dangerous because they retain human intelligence while gaining the wolf's strength and speed. They might appear normal during the day, a friendly neighbor or merchant, then transform at night to hunt. Involuntary werewolves are slaves to the curse. They transform against their will, usually during a full moon, and have no memory of what they do while changed. These are tragic figures. People cursed through no fault of their own, waking after each transformation to discover they've killed again. Some involuntary werewolves chain themselves up during full moons, desperately trying to protect others from themselves. The transformation itself is agonizing. Werewolves don't change smoothly. It's a violent process that looks as painful as it is. Those who've been cursed recently sometimes beg to be killed before the next transformation, unable to bear the pain of changing and the horror of what they become. A werewolf's weakness to silver is well known, but few understand why. Silver is a pure metal, symbolically associated with the moon and with truth. When it enters a werewolf's flesh, it disrupts the curse's magic, causing damage that can't regenerate. A silver blade will hurt a werewolf far more than a steel one ever could. Some werewolves, through great effort and specific rituals, can break their curse. It requires finding the one who cursed them, or obtaining rare alchemical ingredients. But even if the curse is lifted, the psychological scars remain. A former werewolf must live with memories of what they did while transformed, and that burden destroys some people as surely as the curse itself. Drift with me to crossroads at midnight, where you might encounter a devil. Not demons from hell. Those don't exist in the witch's world. Instead, devils are genie-like creatures from another sphere, beings of immense magical power trapped in mortal form. They're bound by ancient rules that require them to make contracts, offering wishes in exchange for something precious. Devils are tricksters and deal-makers. They'll give you exactly what you ask for while twisting the wish to serve their purposes. Ask for wealth, and they might kill your family so you inherit their fortune. Ask for love, and they might enslave someone's will. The devil keeps the letter of the contract while violating its spirit. A devil appears as a well-dressed gentleman, charming and sophisticated, speaking in cultured tones. This is part of the trap. They seem trustworthy, reasonable. Only later do you realize you've made a terrible bargain. And once a contract is signed, it's binding. The only way to escape is to fulfill the contract's terms or find a loophole in the wording. Some devils have been bound for centuries, jumping from contract to contract, unable to return to their own sphere. They're prisoners, and their deals are attempts to somehow break free. This doesn't make them sympathetic. They'll still ruin your life without hesitation. But it adds context to their actions. In the waters near Skellige, sirens sing their deadly songs. These aren't the beautiful maidens of legend. Skellige sirens are more fish than woman, with sharp teeth and webbed hands. They're intelligent, forming pods that hunt together, using their voices as weapons. A siren's song is magical in nature, affecting the mind of anyone who hears it. Sailors find themselves turning their ships toward the source of the singing, unable to resist. The sirens don't do this to be cruel. They're simply hunting, using the tools nature gave them. When the ships crash on rocks, the sirens feed on the survivors. Lamias are similar, but land-based. These creatures have a woman's upper body and a serpent's lower half. They haunt ruins and abandoned temples, luring travelers with illusions. A lamia can make you see what you most desire: a lost love, a safe haven, treasure. You follow the illusion into the lamia's lair, and only when it's too late do you realize you've been deceived. Lamias are born cursed. They were human once, transformed by powerful magic as punishment for some transgression. The curse warps not just their body but their mind, filling them with hunger and cruelty. Deep down, buried beneath the monster, a fragment of humanity might remain, horrified by what they've become, but unable to stop. Now let's speak of vampires, the most misunderstood monsters on the continent. Not all vampires are the same. They're a diverse species with their own culture, politics, and moral codes. Higher vampires are nearly indistinguishable from humans, living among people, often for decades or centuries without being discovered. A higher vampire doesn't need to kill to feed. They can subsist on animal blood or even go without blood entirely, though abstaining causes them discomfort. Those who do drink human blood often take only small amounts, leaving donors dazed but alive. The stereotype of vampires as mindless killers is mostly wrong. Most higher vampires are sophisticated, cultured beings who view humans with a mixture of fascination and contempt. Regis, one of the most famous vampires, is a surgeon and alchemist who hasn't drunk blood in decades. He demonstrates what vampires can be: thoughtful, moral, wrestling with their nature rather than surrendering to it. Higher vampires are nearly immortal, regenerating from almost any wound. The only way to permanently kill a higher vampire is for another higher vampire to do it. This means most higher vampires are effectively immortal, barring intervention from their own kind. Lower vampires are different. These are more monstrous, less intelligent. Echimaras, for example, are savage predators that hunt at night. They're fast and strong, but lack the sophistication of their higher cousins. An Echimara will drain a victim completely, leaving a withered corpse behind. Katakans are another lower vampire breed, capable of transforming into mists or bats. They're clever hunters, stalking specific victims for days before attacking. A Katakan might follow you home, learning your routine, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. They're patient and cunning, even if they lack the higher vampire's true intelligence. Braxai appear as beautiful women, but are deadly predators. They use their appearance to lure victims close before revealing their true form. Pale skin, black eyes, mouths full of needle-sharp teeth. Bruxy can emit sonic screams that disorient and damage prey. They're vain creatures, taking pride in their beauty even as they use it as a weapon. Alps are unique among vampires because they feed on dreams rather than blood. An Alp will enter a sleeping person's home and drain their life force through nightmares. The victim experiences terrible dreams, waking exhausted and terrified, never knowing they were fed upon. Over time, an Alp's feeding will kill its victim through pure exhaustion, drift to abandoned battlefields where noon wraiths and wild hunt specters linger. The wild hunt deserves special mention. These are riders from another sphere, spectral warriors who cross into our world during winter. They appear as armored knights on skeletal horses, riding through the sky, their presence heralding disaster. The wild hunt kidnaps people, taking them back to their own world for purposes unknown. Those who see the hunt often go mad from fear. The hunt's leader, Eredin, is a being of immense power, commanding frost magic and leading his wraith warriors across dimensions. They're not ghosts or undead. They're living beings from another world, appearing spectral because they're not fully anchored to our reality. When the wild hunt passes through an area, temperatures drop dramatically. Animals flee in terror. The very air seems to freeze. They're an apocalyptic force, riders of the end times, and their appearance is an omen of war and death. In the ruins of Velen, botchlings haunt the homes where they died. A botchling is born when an infant is murdered and buried without proper rites. The child spirit transforms into something horrible, a twisted, vampiric creature covered in blood with an oversized head and malformed body. Botchlings attack anyone who enters their territory, especially women, driven by rage at the life they were denied. But a botchling can be saved. Through proper rituals, a witcher can transform a botchling into a lubberkin, a friendly house spirit that protects the family. This requires convincing the botchling that it's loved, that its death was mourned. It's delicate work, requiring empathy and skill. When successful, the monster becomes a guardian, finding peace at last. Lubberkins, once created, are loyal protectors. They ward off evil spirits, alert families to danger, and bring good fortune. In this way, a tragedy can be transformed into something positive. It's a reminder that not all monsters must be killed. Some can be saved, redeemed, given purpose. Now speak softly of godlings, rare creatures that inhabit shrines and sacred places. Godlings aren't gods, but fae-like beings that feed on worship and offerings. They're small, childlike in appearance, with plant matter or flowers growing from their heads. Godlings are mischievous, but rarely malicious, playing pranks on travelers rather than harming them. A godling will form bonds with communities that honor their shrine, providing small blessings in return: good harvests, favorable weather, protection from minor threats. They're sensitive to emotion, drawn to joy and celebration, repelled by cruelty and violence. A village that treats its godling well will prosper. One that neglects or mocks it will find themselves plagued by minor misfortunes. Godlings speak in riddles and value cleverness over strength. They'll test visitors to their shrines with puzzles and challenges. Those who pass earn rewards. Those who fail might be pranked or cursed with temporary bad luck. Godlings are ancient beings who've seen empires rise and fall. Their pranks and riddles help them cope with the loneliness of their long existence. Deep in caves, shellmars burrow through solid rock. These creatures are all muscle and armor, looking like a cross between an armadillo and a mole. Shalmars are herbivores, feeding on underground fungi and roots, but they're highly territorial and aggressive. When threatened, a shalmar will curl into a ball and roll at high speed, crushing anything in its path. Miners hate shalmars because they destabilize tunnel systems, causing cave-ins. But the creatures are just following their nature, excavating tunnels for their own purposes, unaware that humans are trying to use the same space. A shalmar's hide is nearly impenetrable. Only the soft flesh beneath, exposed when they uncurl to attack, is vulnerable. Shalmars are solitary creatures, coming together only to mate. A female shalmar gives birth to a single pup. which she guards ferociously for the first year of its life. After that, she drives it away to establish its own territory. This harsh parenting ensures only the strongest survive, but it also means shellmar populations remain relatively small. In the forests of Tucson, spriggans guard ancient groves. These creatures are plant-based beings, resembling tree trunks with humanoid form. Spriggans are connected to the forest's health. When the trees are strong, spriggans are strong. When the forest is sick or damaged, spriggans become aggressive, lashing out at anything they perceive as a threat. A spriggan can split into multiple forms, each one capable of independent action. Fighting a spriggan means battling several opponents at once, all coordinating perfectly. They regenerate damage rapidly when standing on soil, drawing strength from the earth itself. Fire is their weakness. It severs their connection to the forest, preventing regeneration. Spriggans aren't evil. They're guardians, protectors of the wild places. If you respect the forest, they'll leave you alone. But if you cut trees recklessly, set fires, or hunt endangered animals, spriggans will hunt you in turn. They're the forest's immune system, removing threats to the ecosystem. Now let's discuss griffins, noble and terrifying in equal measure. Griffins are massive predators with a lion's body and an eagle's head and wings. They nest in high places, mountain peaks, tall ruins, cliff faces. A griffin pair mates for life, both parents caring for their young. Griffins are intelligent, capable of complex problem solving. They're also fiercely territorial, attacking anything that enters their hunting grounds. A griffin will circle high above, using its superior eyesight to spot prey, then dive at incredible speed, hitting with the force of a boulder. Their talons can pierce armor. Their beak can snap a man in half. But griffins follow codes of behavior. They won't attack children or obviously pregnant women. They'll never strike someone who's already fleeing their territory. If you back away slowly, showing submission, a griffin might let you leave unharmed. This isn't mercy but calculation. Why waste energy on prey? That's leaving anyway. Some kingdoms have tried to domesticate griffins with mixed results. A griffin raised from an egg might tolerate human presence, but will never be truly tame. They're too proud, too independent. The Nilfgaardian Empire uses griffin imagery in their heraldry, aspiring to the creature's nobility and strength. But few Nilfgaardians have ever seen a real griffin. Cockatrices are distant cousins to griffins, but far less majestic. A cockatrice has a rooster's head, bat wings, and a reptilian body. They're smaller than griffins, about the size of a large dog, but no less dangerous. A cockatrice's bite is venomous, and their gaze can turn living flesh to stone, not through magic, but through a poison secreted from specialized glands around their eyes. Cockatrices are scavengers primarily, feeding on carrion, but they'll attack living prey if opportunity presents. They're cowardly creatures, preferring to ambush from above rather than engage in direct combat. A cockatrice will roost in ruins or caves, emerging at dawn and dusk to hunt. Basilisks are related to cockatrices, but much larger and more dangerous. A basilisk can petrify with its gaze, turning victims to stone statues. This isn't instant. The process takes several seconds, spreading from the point of eye contact through the body. If you can break line of sight quickly, you might avoid the full effect, but partial petrification is still debilitating. Ancient peoples worshipped basilisks as gods, building temples in their honor. Some basilisks still haunt these ruins, now ancient beyond measure, scales thick as armor, wise in the ways of survival. An old basilisk is a truly formidable opponent, having learned from centuries of conflicts. Drift now to the coasts where drowners have kin called drowns. Wait, we covered those. Instead, let's speak of echidnas, massive serpents that lurk in deep water. An echidna is longer than 3 men lying end to end, with scales like steel and fangs that drip venom. They're ambush predators, lying still on river, bottoms or lake beds, waiting for prey to come near. When an echidna strikes, it's with lightning speed, coiling around its victim and dragging them underwater. The pressure of its coils can crush bones. Those who escape drowning often die from the venom, which causes hemorrhaging and organ failure. Echidnas are solitary and highly territorial, fighting each other viciously over prime hunting spots. Female echidnas lay eggs once every few years, burying them in sandbanks. The mother guards the nest until the eggs hatch, then abandons her young to fend for themselves. Many hatchlings don't survive. They're prey for larger fish, birds, and even other echidnas. This harsh beginning ensures only the strongest reach adulthood. In the depths of lakes and seas, cairns wait. These are enormous, tentacled horrors, larger than ships. The cairn has a central body armored with thick plates and numerous tentacles, each strong enough to crush stone. They're ancient creatures, possibly surviving from before the conjunction, though no one knows for certain. Cairns are rare, thankfully. Most people will never see one. Those who do rarely survive to tell the tale. A cairn can capsize boats, drag down swimmers, create whirlpools that swallow small ships whole. They're not malicious. They're animals, hunting to feed. But their size makes them catastrophically dangerous. Entire fishing villages have been destroyed by a cairn establishing territory in their waters. Killing a cairn requires extensive preparation. You must destroy its tentacles one by one, then attack the exposed body. It's a battle that can take hours, and failure means death. Witches avoid cairns when possible. The risk is too high, the reward too small. But sometimes, when a community is being devastated, there's no choice. Let's talk about wights now. These are not wraiths, but cursed individuals who maintain a terrible parody of life. A wight appears almost human at first glance, but something is wrong. Their skin is too pale, their movements too stiff, their eyes too bright. Wights haunt their former homes, unable to leave, repeating the rituals of their past life endlessly. A wight might set a table for dinner every night, preparing food that rots, eating nothing, playing out a memory of happier times. They're mad, broken by their curse, but fragments of humanity remain. Some wights can be reasoned with, reminded of who they were. Others are too far gone, attacking anyone who disturbs their delusions. The curse that creates a wight usually involves a broken oath or terrible crime. A lord who starved his peasants might become a wight. Forced to host feasts, no one attends. A woman who poisoned her family might become a wight, endlessly preparing the fatal meal. The curse is punishment, and prison both, trapping the soul in an eternal moment of guilt. Breaking a wight's curse requires fulfilling whatever obligation was left undone. This might mean finding stolen treasure and returning it, or ensuring a murdered victim receives proper burial, or simply convincing the wight to accept forgiveness. It's detective work as much as combat, unraveling old mysteries to free a tormented soul. Now speak of the chorts, horned creatures from Tucson's wine country. Chorts are massive, bull-like monsters with humanoid postures and demonic faces. They're territorial and aggressive, charging anyone who enters their domain. A chort's horns are sharp as swords, and their strength is prodigious. They can uproot trees and smash through stone walls. Chorts are surprisingly intelligent, despite their brutish appearance. They're capable of tactical thinking, sometimes herding prey into ambushes or using terrain to their advantage. Some scholars believe chorts are related to fiends, a northern species, but others argue they're entirely distinct. In local folklore, chorts are seen as guardians of wild places, punishing those who disrespect nature. There might be truth to this. Chorts tend to attack those who set fires, poison water, or engage in excessive hunting. Those who travel respectfully through their territories sometimes pass unmolested. It's as if the chort can sense intent, distinguishing between threats and simple travelers. Fiends are even more fearsome than chorts, massive deer-like creatures with third eyes that possess hypnotic properties. A fiend stands taller than a horse, with massive antlers and hooves that can crush skulls. They're apex predators in the northern forests, feared even by bears and wolves. A fiend's third eye is its most dangerous weapon. Looking into it can paralyze victims with fear or trap them in illusions. Hunters have been found standing frozen, staring at nothing, while the fiend circles and attacks at leisure. Covering one's own eyes or using a reflecting surface can protect against this ability. Fiends are solitary outside of mating season. They mark large territories and defend them viciously against all comers. A fiend's territory might span several square miles, encompassing multiple villages. This puts them in constant conflict with humans, who see the fiend as a threat that must be eliminated. But from the fiend's perspective, humans are invaders in its home. In the frozen north, ice trolls make their homes under bridges and in caves. Trolls are often misunderstood. They're not inherently hostile, despite their fearsome appearance. A troll is large and strong, yes, with rough stone-like skin and a tendency to smash things. But they're also simple-minded and often just want to be left alone. Many trolls establish themselves as bridge guardians, demanding tolls from travelers. These tolls are usually small. A few coins, some food, alcohol if you have it. Trolls love alcohol, though their tolerance is legendary. Pay the toll, show respect, and the troll will let you pass. Refuse, and the troll will forcefully collect what it's owed. Some trolls have learned to trade with humans, offering their services as guards or laborers in exchange for payment. These trolls are valuable allies. They're strong, loyal, and harder to kill than most monsters. A community with a friendly troll protecting them is safer from bandits and beasts alike. But not all trolls are friendly. Rock trolls are particularly territorial and aggressive. They'll attack on sight, asking no questions, accepting no tolls. These trolls have usually been mistreated by humans in the past, learning to distrust anything on two legs. Once a troll turns hostile, it's nearly impossible to reason with it. Ice trolls are similar to rock trolls, but adapted to cold climates. They're even larger, with frost forming on their skin. Ice trolls are less intelligent than their southern cousins, more bestial in behavior. They hunt in pairs or small family groups, working together to take down prey. Now let's discuss cyclopses, one-eyed giants of tremendous strength. A cyclops stands twice the height of a tall man, muscular and thick-skinned. That single eye is both a strength and weakness. It provides excellent depth perception, useful for throwing boulders with deadly accuracy, but damaging it blinds the Cyclops completely. Cyclopses are herders, keeping flocks of sheep or goats. They're simple creatures, living alone or in small family units, rarely interacting with human society. A Cyclops will ignore travelers who don't bother its livestock, but steal a sheep, and the Cyclops will hunt you relentlessly, following your trail for days if necessary. Some Cyclopes have learned basic tool use, crafting crude clubs, or even wearing simple armor. These are the intellectuals of their species, equivalent to human craftsmen. Most Cyclopes, however, rely on their natural strength, needing no weapons, when they can throw boulders the size of barrels. Drift with me to ancient forests where relics dwell, creatures from the world before the conjunction. Relics are rare, remnants of a time when magic was stronger and stranger. Each is unique, following rules that don't always make sense by modern standards. Sylvans are relict creatures, goat-like humanoids who play music and drink wine. They're mischievous, but rarely evil, preferring pranks to violence. A Sylvan might lead travelers in circles, steal food from camps, or make crude jokes at your expense. But they'll also guide lost children home, protect endangered animals, and play beautiful music on their pipes. Sylvans live according to impulse and desire. They have no concept of delayed gratification or long-term planning. If a Sylvan wants something, it acts immediately to obtain it. This makes them unpredictable. A Sylvan might be your best friend one moment and robbing you the next, not from malice, but from simple want. In Tucson, the crones of Crookback Bog hold dark power. These are not ordinary monsters, but beings of immense magical ability, possibly as old as the land itself. The crones appear as ancient women, but can transform into more monstrous forms, Brewis, Weavis, and Wispis, each with unique and horrible powers. The crones demand worship and sacrifice from nearby villages. They offer favors in exchange, healing sick children, ensuring good harvests, finding lost items. But their prices are steep, often requiring later payment that exceeds the initial benefit. A child healed might be claimed years later as a servant. A good harvest might require dedicating the next born child to the crones. These beings feed on fear and suffering. They're ancient evils, predating human civilization on the continent. Their power is formidable. They can curse from a distance, see through their servants' eyes, manipulate weather and wildlife. Fighting the crones would require immense preparation and power. Most people simply give them what they want, hoping to appease rather than confront. The crones have a mother, the Lady of the Woods, who was sealed away long ago. She was even more powerful than her daughters, a primal force that threatened to consume the entire region. The crones themselves participated in sealing her, perhaps out of self-preservation rather than any moral impulse. Now they guard her prison, ensuring she never escapes. Let's speak now of Dopplers, creatures that can assume any humanoid form. A Doppler doesn't just mimic appearance, but personality, memories, even magical abilities. They're perfect copies, indistinguishable from the original. This makes them incredibly dangerous. A Doppler could replace anyone, living their life while the real person is elsewhere. But most Dopplers are peaceful. They're shy creatures who prefer avoiding conflict. When they do take someone's form, It's usually temporarily and for practical reasons, to buy supplies, seek help, or simply experience life as another person. Dopplers are fascinated by individuality, collecting experiences like others collect coins. Some Dopplers work as spies or assassins, using their abilities for hire. These individuals give all Dopplers a bad reputation. The truth is more complex. Like any intelligent species, Dopplers have good and bad individuals. Most want only to live quietly, perhaps occasionally borrowing an identity for convenience. Identifying a Doppler requires careful observation. They're perfect copies in appearance and manner, but they lack the original's emotional connections. A Doppler might know your daughter's name, but not understand why a certain joke makes her laugh. They have the facts without the context. Clever questioning can reveal these gaps. In the waters, water hags have already been discussed, but we haven't mentioned grave hags. These are terrestrial versions, haunting cemeteries and battlefields. Grave hags are covered in mud and filth, their long hair dragging on the ground. They're scavengers primarily, feeding on corpses, but they'll kill living prey if opportunity presents. Grave hags can become invisible at will, merging with fog or shadows. They use this ability to ambush prey, appearing suddenly with their long claws already swinging. A grave hag's claws are coated in disease. Even a minor wound can lead to infection and death if untreated. Despite their repulsive nature, grave hags are intelligent. Some can speak, bargaining with desperate people. They know secrets, where bodies are buried, who killed whom, what treasures lie in forgotten graves. This knowledge can be valuable if you're willing to negotiate with a monster. Centaurs are unique creatures, part human, part insect. They have a human upper body attached to a centipede's lower half, with dozens of legs carrying them at surprising speed. Centaurs are found in caves and ruins, territorial and aggressive. A centaur's bite injects paralytic venom. Once prey is paralyzed, the centaur drags it back to its lair, wrapping it in silk-like webbing for later consumption. This practice has led to discoveries of entire rooms filled with cocooned victims, some still alive, but unable to move or cry out. Centaurs are believed to be the result of magical experiments gone wrong. Some wizard, long ago, tried to create the perfect soldier by combining human and insect. The result was the centaur, strong, fast, venomous, but uncontrollable and violently aggressive. The wizard presumably learned their lesson, but centaurs spread into the wild, breeding and establishing populations. Now rest your mind on gentler creatures. Not all monsters are dangerous. Some are simply misunderstood or found in unfortunate circumstances. Godlings, as mentioned, are mostly harmless. Succubi and incubi, while demons in name, are often just trying to survive. A succubus feeds on life energy through intimate contact. Yes, but they don't drain victims to death. Most succubi take only what they need, leaving partners dazed but unharmed. They're capable of genuine emotion and connection, despite being labeled monsters. Rock trolls, when properly approached, can be friends. Ice giants, while dangerous, follow predictable patterns. Even some vampires, as we've discussed, are capable of morality and restraint. The world of The Witcher is filled with monsters, true, but it's also filled with complexity, with creatures that don't fit neat categories of good and evil. A drowner was once a person who drowned. A werewolf might be a cursed innocent. A Doppler might be kinder than the human it replaces. This is what witches learn, that killing isn't always the answer. Sometimes understanding is enough. Sometimes the real monster is human, not the creature you are hired to slay. The world is shades of grey, not black and white. As you drift towards sleep, imagine walking the path. You're a witcher, traveling from town to town, solving problems, killing monsters when necessary, showing mercy when possible. You carry two swords, silver for monsters, steel for men. Both get used, because humans can be monstrous too. You rest at inns, sharing stories with other travelers. You brew potions, your witcher metabolism allowing you to use toxins that would kill normal humans. You meditate to prepare for battles, visualizing the monster you'll face, planning your approach. The path is long and often lonely, but it's necessary. Monsters exist, and someone must stand between them and innocent people. That someone is you, the witcher, walking the path until it ends. Rest now, knowing the monsters are just stories. Close your eyes and drift into peaceful sleep. The creatures we've discussed tonight can't hurt you here. They're confined to their world, while you're safe in yours. Tomorrow brings new journeys, but tonight, just rest. Let the bestiary fade from your mind like morning mist. Sleep deeply. Dream peacefully. The path will be there if you choose to walk it again. But for now, just breathe and let yourself drift away. Good night, Witcher. May your sleep be peaceful and your dreams free of monsters. Until next time, rest well.